trade rumors are starting to escalate surrounding the San Antonio Spurs. A report came out that the San Antonio Spurs are linked to a young superstar guard. We break down that rumor and what this means for the San Antonio Spurs here. This is Spurs Digest with Keenan Warner. And before we break down the rumor and what this means for the Spurs, make sure you take a spur of the moment, hit that subscribe button to get every Spurs moment. But the San Antonio Spurs could target undervalued former first-round pick. This was reported by Jonah Kubiak. The Detroit Pistons are in shambles, and the San Antonio Spurs could be poised to make a massive deal. Detroit Pistons, San Antonio Spurs, former first pick. What does this mean? Who could this be? Cade Cunningham. It's a long shot, Jonah reports. It's a long shot indeed, but Cade Cunningham might be on the trade market. Is there a better fit than San Antonio for a pass-first point guard who could defend at a high level, knock down shots? Probably not. Take out the probably. There's not a better fit. Even with Chris Paul in town, the Spurs could add a tried-and-true point guard to run the floor with Victor Wembanyama. They certainly have the assets to pull off this blockbuster trade. That they do. We will get into the assets that they have and what could be moved or what will need to be moved to get Cade Cunningham. But let's talk about Cade Cunningham for just a second. Cade Cunningham, a guy, 22.7 points, close to 23 points a game. He had 2 games over which he scored 40 points last season. 7.5 assists per game, over 15 games with 10-plus assists. This guy can facilitate at a high level. This guy can score at a high level. He is 6'6", a physical guard from Oklahoma State. He can defend at a high level, stretch the floor close to 36% from 3 and 45% from the floor. Cade Cunningham, to go along with Stephon Castle, to go along with Devin Vassell, to go along with Harrison Barnes, Chris Paul, Victor Wembanyama, Zach Collins, Tre Jones. Tre Jones might need to be in the trade. They need a guard. They don't really need it. They have so much young, unorganized depth in Detroit that Tre Jones might not be on their radar, but he could be. Cade Cunningham, Stephon Castle, Harrison Barnes, Jeremy Sochan, Victor Wembanyama with Devin Vassell coming off the bench. That 6 can match any 6. You then go along with Zach Collins, Tre Jones, Chris Paul. That 9 can match any 9 in the NBA. They can compete with Denver. Of course, Victor and Jokic. They can match up because Victor Wembanyama matches up with anybody on planet Earth. We're seeing it now as he is dominating for France, and he's going to continue to dominate as he's in the NBA and FIBA. That's a more physical game. He gets to play loose, free in an offense with Gregg Popovich, who's coached a couple good players. I don't know, that Tim Duncan guy was pretty good. Manu Ginobili was a pretty solid player. The Admiral, that guy, MVP kind of guy, he was a pretty good player. So Gregg Popovich knows how to coach bigs specifically, but he knows how to coach these great players. Cade Cunningham. Reports out of Detroit. You've got an anonymous executive says he feels bad for Cade Cunningham. His quote, "I feel bad for Cade Cunningham. They've been rebuilding for years even though they've never planned on it. And this pick signals they might need to blow up the roster and start over again. I just don't see how Holland," referring to Ron Holland, their first-round pick, "plays with Azure Thompson, Jaden Ivey, and all their other young guys. This situation is a mess, even with Holland was scoring in Vegas. It was so ugly to watch. The product wasn't good. Detroit hasn't been good in over a decade. The last time Detroit was good, big shot Chauncey Billups was on the roster. Rip Hamilton was on the roster. Defensive Player of the Year multiple times over, Ben Wallace was on their roster the last time they were truly a good team. Cade, get out of there. We know you just signed yourself an extension. The 5 years, $224 could be up to $268 million. The contract doesn't really scare the San Antonio Spurs, doesn't need to. Devin Vassell's the only person making over $20 million right now. Of course, Victor Wembanyama will be when his contract comes up, but you get Cade Cunningham. You can build around. The second apron's not something you need to worry about. Essentially, over $188 million in the league. You can't do a thing. The Spurs don't have to worry about that with the second apron. That's really the idea behind it. You get to a certain tax bracket, you can't do anything. Holding teams under that to try to make the league a more balanced league. To get Cade Cunningham, though, what's going to need to be given up? And yes, there's going to be a package. 5 first-round picks, Jonah believes. 5 first-round picks or even more. And a solid young player, that's Keldon Johnson. Keldon Johnson, a guy who took a little bit of a step back last year because of the fact that Victor Wembanyama is on the court and you take away a little bit of his game when that happens. But this is easily within the grasp of the San Antonio Spurs. And you come out with Cade Cunningham and Victor Wembanyama, that duo within 2 years, the best duo in the league. The best duo in the league, because Victor Wembanyama within 2 years, the best player in the league, to go along with a guard who has top 20 potential. That is the best duo in the league. LeBron and AD will be gone. There's no more Steph and Clay. You've got Kyrie and Luka, but they can fit, but they're just a backcourt duo. They're not a big guard tandem. They don't play defense like Victor Wembanyama and Cade Cunningham can. Victor Wembanyama will win a Defensive Player of the Year before the age of 24, and Cade Cunningham could easily make a second all-defensive team with his prowess. You just need to get him in the right situation to go along with Stephon Castle, who will be the Rookie of the Year. That young nucleus would be contending every single year they're together. That young nucleus would be the best team in basketball. Cade Cunningham makes the San Antonio Spurs the best team in basketball. They compete with whoever, and they already have a young, rising supernova in Victor Wembanyama. Comment below what your thoughts on Cade Cunningham to the San Antonio Spurs are. Would it make them the best team in the league? Would it make them a contender in the Western Conference? Of course it would, but I want to hear your thoughts below. Again, this was Keenan Warner, Spurs Digest. I thank you.